Attorney.
Good evening. Um, First off, tonight on the agenda is a public hearing on a proposed contract terms for the superintendent. It was published in the terms of the contract. The financial impact on the corporation was published in the paper on April 8th, as all the dollar amounts of the contract and the different benefits being proposed for the contract. The candidate for the position is not disclosed this evening, doesn't have to be. We're not voting on a contract tonight. That'll be done at a later date. So the public hearing tonight is for the public to make comments, to either object or make comments to support the proposed employment contract between North Lawrence Community School Board of Trustees and the superintendent. So if there's anyone from the public who would like to come up and make comments about the contract terms, now is the time. Please state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we will conclude the public hearing and move on to the regular session.
All right, thank you, Greg. So I will read our statement here. This is a meeting
This meeting is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting the school corporation's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There may be time for public participation as indicated by agenda item or as directed by the president. The meeting site is fully accessible. Any person requiring further accommodation should contact the superintendent at the school corporation's central office. The meeting will be electronically recorded and will be kept on file in the superintendent's office, and a copy of the audio recording will also be available on the NLCS website. So let's do the pledge. All those able, please rise and uncover. Tracy, you want to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So let the record reflect that Ms. Collier is absent. All other board members are present. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes and executive session memorandum from March 16th, 2023, March 21st, 2023, and March 30th.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. That motion carries. So next, persons to address the board relative to the agenda. Naomi Trojan. Hi, you have 3 minutes, Ms. Trojan.
I'm Naomi Trojan. I live on Henderson Creek in Hiltonville, and I will be up here later on to speak about robotics, but the purpose of this first one is to give you guys a letter. This letter was written by one of our students. He put a lot of thought, effort, research. This is a student who went above and beyond to advocate for his fellow peers, though what he has written in the letter will not pertain to him next year, as he is sadly moving on to 7th grade, and I will lose my precious student that I have. All of my kids, our students, are precious, but this one has really started to shine and has really proven what students in our district can do. He has written this. He hopes to hear from you guys, and he told me to let him know how it goes, and I said, well, you'll know if they respond. So it's not a challenge. It's just something that was weighing on his mind. He wrote a letter to his teachers, and it was a letter that we could have said, you know, too bad. We could have said, got mad at it, or we could have done what we did. And it's like, what brought you to write this? What was your purpose? What was your goal? Here's how you can improve. This is what they may ask. And he went back through, and I kid you not, I was getting Google Classroom messages from him at 8:30 on a Friday night, at which his last one was like, I think I'm done for the weekend, but I have a plan for Monday if you're okay with it.
What school?
Shawswick.
Okay.
At Shawswick. So he's kind of nervous, but he did do this. He did talk to the principal. He set up a meeting with her, went and talked to her, showed her the letter. And I think it's really thought out, and I could say so much more about this student, but I'm hoping that you'll take some time to actually meet him for yourself. So if it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and hand you this letter.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to get students involved in local government, so thank you. He even wrote on the envelope.
He did.
Thank you.
Folded it and everything else.
Thank you.
He taped it because of COVID. So.
Oh. Yes, we love hearing from students, so please tell him thank you, and he will hear from us. All right, and no other cards. Okay, then Mrs. Robin Neuter.
I present claims and payroll since the last board meeting in the amount of $3,804,919.13.
I would take a motion to approve the claims and payroll as presented. Is Mr. Scott makes a motion. Do we have a second? Mr.
Second.
Scott. Sorry, I meant Mr. King makes the motion, not Mr. Scott. And Mr. Lombrick seconds the motion. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. And personnel agenda?
Yeah, I asked the board for approval of the personnel agenda as presented to you this evening.
I would take a motion to approve.
Second.
Mrs. Miller makes the motion. Mr. Bailey seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
I would just like to thank all those retirees that are in that are, put in a lot of service for us. I mean, there were several years. I mean, from the custodians to the aides, the teachers, just, all the staff that's put in good years with us and is now fortunate enough to be ready to retire. Good for them, and we thank them for all that they've done for us.
Yes, thank you. Scott, did you have something?
Yeah, yeah. This first one's Lucas Calhoun. This is not a transfer of duties. This is an addition of duties, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then a couple of these we had lead custodians transferring to maintenance. We're not losing these custodians. They're not leaving the buildings, right? They're just
No, they're just transferring.
like a paperwork issue thing.
Yes,
okay.
they're just transferring to a different position,
Okay.
but within the same building.
Okay. That's all I had.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Does this also include the summer school?
Yeah, it's in the packet.
Okay,
Yes.
then I'm going to abstain.
It's here.
All right, that motion carries. And then your third item?
Yeah, we would like to thank Joel and Mackenzie Beasley for their book donation to Playful Pathways during Dr. Seuss Week.
Okay, great. Okay, next, under general, the out-of-state trip is first. Who's presenting that?
Naomi.
I'm sorry, Nail. Sorry, should have just called you back up by name.
That's okay. It's my first time, so please bear with me.
Sure.
So I'm here to represent the NLCS robotics teams that would like to head to Worlds, which is in Dallas, Texas. The BMS team, or BMS school, started up 2 teams this year. He is one of them. And both teams made it to Worlds. They qualified for state. They went to state, made it past there, now qualify for Worlds. Needmore had 3 teams, and all 3 of them also qualified for Worlds. Last year, there was over 3,000 teams that went to Worlds in 30 different countries that were represented, and it was quite an experience. I was fortunate enough to have been able to go on it last year. I did more of the volunteering and working Worlds. I was able to network and meet a lot of people. But what we are asking for I think you guys have the updated one. We're asking for approval of, it's now 5 students from BMS going and 9 students from Needmore Elementary going along. Their coaches will be going with them. Lou Keene is a coach and also an employee, and I will also be traveling with them. I'm transporting the robots and the fields for the BMS team. Needmore has their own person transporting their items as well. It's just safer than shipping, and we're just secure. So on this sheet that you guys have, it gives us our cost of airfare, gas. We were going to do mileage, but realized that would be an outrageous amount. So we're just asking for reimbursement for gas. And then hotel lodgings for the coaches for Needmore, which is Lou Keene and Jim Thompson. For the principal of Needmore, Mrs. Petty. For myself and for the coach at BMS Team Reeve RC. All of these people did receive a stipend for robotics, with the exception of Mrs. Petty, but she has been one of our biggest advocates and has done a lot of behind-the-scenes work with the robotics teams. I will be happy to ask any of your questions. We've attached some receipts, just so you can kind of see what's going on. I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
I'm sorry, what were the mix of students that you said? How many from BMS and how many from Needmore?
There are 5 students from BMS and 9 students from Needmore Elementary.
So 14 total. What we have says 6. Was that just a prior?
That was one that filled in for us for state. My son was not able to go to state. We decided to go on our family vacation. So he subbed in, and when I was filling this out, I wasn't for sure if he
Got
wanted
it.
to travel to Worlds or not.
Just want to say thanks for the detailed spreadsheet. That helps us a lot. I appreciate that.
That was Mrs. Petty. She put that together for us. We just had to fill in the blanks.
For Ms. Muter, where would this funding, what account or what budget line would this come out of?
This would come out of the education fund since it is educational.
Touch of students.
And are we have
We're
adequate
good.
funding?
Yeah, I've already discussed everything with them.
In which areas are you asking for reimbursement? I'm sorry, I think you said that, but I was,
Yeah, some of us already paid. So
Okay.
like my hotel, for example, I had to
Gotcha.
pay completely up front.
gotcha.
And the airline tickets, some of us paid because we were trying to get the cheapest price
Okay.
when everything was posted.
And just as an observation, we had them come last year and again this year and present at the Rotary Club. And I made the comment then that it was amazing. I'm sure that they were all smarter than me now. Smarter than I'll ever be at that with what they were doing. And it is quite amazing to watch the process and to ask the questions and to see that I likened it to back when my kids were doing Pinewood Derby and Cub Scouts. I always made a great car. My kids thought that they made it, but I did it. And in this case, these guys are doing all of it themselves. They're writing it down, they're making the flow charts, they're putting it together, they're scrapping it when it doesn't work, and they're redoing it, and it's just an amazing thing to me. And so you guys will one day rule the world, I'm sure. So be, be kind to us old people when we get there. So
This is truly a great experience for the kids. And
So are items 1 and 2 separate? Do they need separate approval?
There's two different,
it's
yeah.
BMS and
I think
Needmore.
Yeah, just
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, so any other questions for Ms. Trojan?
I just want to say congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
so it's
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3, right?
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
So I make a motion, we accept, or we approve the requests for items 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Lombrick seconds. Any more discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Good luck. Let us know how it goes. You're welcome. All right, so then we have, is Jim Jones here to talk about about
Orchestra.
orchestra's overnight field trip? We have it in front of us, so he may not be presenting on that. So let's everybody just look at that. I think it's in the form of an email. Did you find it?
I think so. Is that Gmail it overnight?
Right, so it says it's a Gmail printout. So if everybody just wants to take a minute and look at that.
A funding request as much as an approval for it being overnight, so.
Yeah, and it looks like it's in March of 2024. All right, so I would entertain a motion to approve the overnight field trip for B&L Orchestra in spring of 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Parsley makes a motion, Mr. Bailey seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
I don't know if it's clear to the audience, this is a trip to St. Louis is where this is located, so.
In March of 2024, an overnight for B&L Orchestra. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
Dr. Miller,
Yes.
Logan's here tonight, and we learned a couple of hours ago that there may be another out-of-state field trip that would be after our next board meeting. I don't want to put him on the spot, but would you mind share? Yeah, out-of-state. If I could put him on the spot.
Sure.
I think for security, safety, and for insurance purposes, if we talked about it tonight instead of after the fact, we'd be better prepared. So thank you for being here.
Hey, yeah. So today I took a group of students for livestock judging. We do that every year. And the teams, we found out the second part of the team scores tomorrow. By the end of the day, we're supposed to know. But the team that they did tabulate before we left, they came in first in a non-reasons livestock evaluation for our region. Our region at the contest today, they said there was over 200 kids total. And one of them is Jeff's daughter. She was the overall. She placed first as an individual out of everybody, and was on that 4-person team that also won. Their contest is the next level of that is at the Tippecanoe Fairgrounds that they've qualified, and it's going to be on Saturday, May the 20th. So it's after school's done, but for hotels and trying to secure a spot kind of close there. We would like to go up that Friday night. FFA would pay all expenses. When we travel, we pay our expenses. So the school corporation wouldn't be out any funds or anything, but I'll process the paperwork tomorrow. But if we could just let you guys know what that is when you see that paperwork or however y'all want to do that. But that'll be leaving on Friday the 19th and returning after they compete on Saturday the 20th. And it's like an 8:30 start. So driving that far is not much fun, and then have to do all that day. So,
I think
we may
need
have
board approval.
Yeah, we may have more kids that qualify depending on how that second section with reasons qualifies. But for now, it's 4 kids.
Where
for
is
sure.
it again? I'm sorry.
Tippecanoe Fairgrounds up around Purdue.
Okay. Well, we'll forgive that.
So this, if
Go
this
ahead.
next group qualifies, will they compete at the same time?
Yes,
Okay.
it's same day, same place. It's
Right,
just a
so
different
we-
category. So
We could approve that, assuming that they're going to qualify. Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the trip. What should I call the group? I'm sorry.
livestock evaluation.
Livestock evaluation in Tippecanoe County, May 19th through 20th, an overnight trip.
So moved.
Mr. King makes a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Mr. Parsley seconds. Any more discussion on the motion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank y'all.
Logan.
Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to appointment of Amy John to the Bedford Public Library Board of Trustees. We have a letter here, it has the Bedford Public Library insignia on it, so if you want to just look at that and read it. And I can just read it briefly so that people know what we're looking at here. This is from Nathan Watson, the director of the Bedford Public Library, and it is about NLCS appoints 3 members to the Bedford Public Library Board of Trustees. Currently, those are Kelly Storms, Kelsey Pace, and Amy John. Amy's term expires the end of April, so they are asking us to reappoint her, and that has had great contributions on the Bedford Public Library Board. Is Miss John here? I don't think so. So I would entertain a motion to appoint, as presented here, Amy John to the Bedford Public Library Board of Trustees.
So moved.
Mr. Bailey makes a motion. Second.
Second.
I'm going to give it to Barb this time. Mrs. Miller makes the second. Any discussion on the motion?
Hope she wants to.
I hope she. Yeah, we
Assume she does.
we assume
Says she expressed interest.
She has expressed interest, yes. We're not making anybody do it.
She wants to, they want to.
Yeah, okay. So, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. And then number 6, approval of the 2023-2024 out-of-district student transfers.
That'd be mine.
Okay.
And I just simply need to make a recommendation that the board either approve to continue accepting out-of-district students under the open enrollment law or to discontinue. And if you want to continue, you can continue under several circumstances, but this is a requirement, an annual requirement by law. By June 30th, you have to approve that you will or will not continue to have out-of-district enrollment. You can determine that you can close a school, you can close a grade level, or you just have open to everybody. But I would recommend that you just continue open enrollment as you have in the past practice and tradition.
Okay, thank you.
I will make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
so Mr. Lombrick makes the motion, Mr. King seconds. Any more discussion or questions on the motion? All right, so the motion on the table is to approve the 2023-2024 out-of-district student transfers. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you. Now
Yeah.
you're legal.
Yep, thank you. Motion carries. All right, the North Lawrence Career Center, Amy Redmond, is she here? Do we know if she was going to be here to present this? Or we're just voting on the materials we have? Okay. Okay, so what we are looking at is, for the benefit of the audience, is the approval of operating agreements between NLCS and 5 other schools. That's Brownstown, Medora, Mitchell, Orleans, and Shoals, included in our CTE district.
Did we get one for all 5?
Bear with us, sorry, we're trying to find our papers.
I think we're missing.
Okay.
I think we're missing Orleans. I got my copy from, it was on there earlier, so. Okay, we've got him. They're here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to approve item number 1, as presented.
So moved.
Mr. King makes a motion, second on the motion? Mr. Parsley, seconds, next time, Barb.
Wait, Mr. Harris.
Any discussion on the motion?
So this has to do with other school corporations bringing students in at the Career Center. And it explains how all that works and how they determine who gets classes, and then at some point they determine cost and all that, so.
And that's Brownstown, Medora, Mitchell, Orleans, and Shoals.
Yeah, so they have to put in further enrollment in April and May so that we can determine what the budget will be for next year, so.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Without any other discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. So this is a different out-of-state trip from Mr. Feltz? Is this? Oh, it says Logan. I'm sorry. It does say his name on here.
They don't trust my driving.
Yeah, okay.
If I'm gonna go, I'm gonna take him as a driver. So
Okay,
it's
so
understandable.
you are speaking about an approval of an out-of-state trip,
Yes.
Educators Rising National Competition.
Yes, and
Got it.
I'm kind of just showing off the kids because it took so long to get their scores back. We weren't unable to publish anything in the media. So 2 of my 4 students that qualified for nationals are here tonight, and we brought some of their award-winning products with them. We did not bring the bulletin board. That's in my classroom. And it was so funny because my 5-year-old, who's hanging out back there causing a stir, was playing with them, and my husband says, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Look, it's working. It's award-winning. That's why. It's because it's the preschoolers using it as they should." So we had 4 students win first place, score high enough to go to nationals. ISTA at the state level will pay for their hotel, flights, registration fees.
We do have to make those purchases on the school credit card, but we send in a governance voucher, and then they reimburse. And I keep a very tight email chain and records because that's how I work. If you would like itemized spreadsheets, I can do that as well, but it gets tedious for you all. So we will also just take a fun day down there. They were offering tickets at half price to some of the amusement parks as part of the reward. All of those funds come from fundraised through our club, Ed Rising. Educators Rising, I should have started by introducing that club. Hi, I'm the sponsor of Educators Rising, where we raise future teachers, which we're kind of short of right now. And you'll notice even in the minutes of today, you voted on some of my current and former students working as teachers or assistants in Playful Pathways or the surrounding schools. I won't make you present, don't worry. We have, I know.
Somebody needs
I
to.
might briefly go over a few. So one of them wrote a book. She illustrated the pictures, and this is the one that printed wrong. I wasn't going to bring up the national award, like we're not going to bring up the good copy. We're going to bring up the, in case it gets messed up copy, it's okay. But she cut out Eric Carl style, I guess, if you want to put it that way. You're welcome to take that. Lance, they're at Pass Route. She's at track tonight. She couldn't make it tonight. And our other one is at dance, and she and Calandra presented a bulletin board it's an interactive bulletin board with buttons, and it is. My little boy, it was so funny, walked into the room and instantly started doing the rhyme, counting. And it's not just making these products. They have to explain learning objectives, standards, how they teach, what they teach. Very briefly, would you just show them what you made together? I know, I didn't tell them I was going to.
Pretend we're preschool.
Yes.
We made a bug scavenger hunt, and you use all these little tools that are in it to pick up all the little bugs that are on these sheets. And it helps with all of like their writing skills, fine motor skills. And they can use these to help keep track of it and also learn how to count.
That's the very summed up version. It goes on for 5 minutes, but they are nervous as all get. You can go sit down. I know you're dying inside right now. Do you all have any questions about this or what we're doing?
No, I just didn't even know this. I didn't even know about this.
So
club.
this club came into existence about 3 years ago. It's ran by ISTA for the state of Indiana. So there have been a few hiccups along the way as far as growing, but it is very much anyone who's considered being an educator can be part of our club.
Okay.
I just happen to teach early childhood education to the high school kids and teach them how to teach. And so I've got that little in of those students who are interested. So it overlaps with our curriculum too.
Okay. Well, thank you, and good job, ladies, for presenting. So this is not. They would just use the credit card and then get reimbursement.
Yes.
Just making sure everybody's clear on that. Okay. All right. Well, I would. Does anybody else have questions for Mrs. Phelps? All right. Then I would entertain a motion to approve the out-of-state trip for Educators Rising National Competition. All right. Mrs. Miller gets the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bailey seconds. Any more discussion on the motion? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Have fun.
Okay. I'll get the book later.
Yeah, we're still looking at your book. All right. So, Robin's going to talk about this.
Mr. Callahan is asking for approval for turf field maintenance agreement with the Mott's Group. $7,000, and it's just for maintenance of the turf field.
It may say in the paper, is this just a one-time thing, or is this something that we're signing up for, like, regular maintenance?
I think it's just once.
I think, to me, it looks like it's just one.
Yeah, it's just one time.
Okay, just making sure that's clear.
Is this something
Right, it may, definitely going to be, but it's not like
is this
every
something we've
year.
done before?
I believe so.
Is
I'm
that
not
our
sure
first-
if we
is that our
have.
I'm
first
not sure
time?
this part's been done. We've had them come in and rake it, or it's been raked, but as far as when you read it, they run a high-powered magnet over it, it pulls out all the metal and things. I think this is one of those maintenance things that
Those
just
field
gets
plans.
done every few years.
Right, and with the investment that we have in those fields, those 3 fields, I know that I've spoken to some coaches, I know that it needs to be done in order to maintain our investment, which was significant.
Okay.
So it mentions football field and softball field, but I'm sure it includes the baseball field as well. Okay, because it
Yeah.
looks like the cost is there for 3, but they just mentioned 2. Okay.
Yeah, it's for 3, and then because we have a bonus of, we get a
Multi-field bonus, yeah, 2,000, yeah. So if they use this high-powered magnet sweep and take all this metal out, if they find a lot of coins, did they deduct that from the cost? And if they have any rare coins, can we see them first? And it says here that they do this and then they compare field results to the standards for safety and playability, assuming if they're not up to standards, they do it again until it gets to standards. I mean, that's part of the guarantee, I guess?
Yes.
I would assume, okay.
That's how I read it.
Okay.
Was- Yeah.
And then he has 2 days of downtime at some point, right? And we just schedule that.
Okay, well, I would entertain a motion to approve turf field maintenance agreement with the Mott's Group.
I move it.
Mr. King makes a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Mrs. Miller makes a second. Any more discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And now we are to curriculum. Mrs. Hudson, and I don't know, Mr. Calhoun is here. I don't know if it says /you, so I don't know if you're coming up.
I think Mr. Calhoun and Heidi Atchison are going to field any questions that you might have about some specific things. So I ask for your approval of the adoption of curricular materials for science in grades 7 and 8 with McGraw-Hill, Indiana Inspire Science. I think you have the quote in your packets. This would be covering our grade 7 and grade 8 science adoption. It's a 6-year rotation, so we're due to adopt science in grades 7 and 8. This would be our adoption for the next 6 years. There's a team of, actually all of the science teachers at Bedford Middle School, and Heidi, the instructional coach, and Mr. Calhoun traveled to Jasper, to the SIEC, to the science caravan to view, I believe, 9 or 10 different vendors, and they narrowed to their top few, and then they had in-depth visits with those reps, and either in person or via Google Meet or Zoom, and the teachers ultimately made the decision that this is the curriculum that they would like to have. We also had a parent day last Friday for any parents, existing 6th grade and 7th grade parents, to come and view the materials at Bedford Middle School. So we did a parent review.
Do we know how many parents showed up?
Not enough.
Do we count the parents who are also educators?
No.
Is this something we've used before, or is this a switch?
This is a switch. Not
No,
sure.
this is actually, they used McGraw-Hill in the previous adoption, but it was 12 years ago.
Okay.
Okay, so we haven't used it recently. Okay.
So it's updated and to the standards we want, obviously, but I mean,
Yes,
mean-
it reflects the new NGSS science standards for Indiana.
gotcha.
Is this in any way coordinated with the curriculum at the high school, such that it's somewhat of a feeder and flow from middle school into high school?
The high school uses a lot of different curriculums because they have so many different science classes. So
And this one reflects the new standards as opposed to Indiana for this grade level too, so it works out well.
the state is redoing all of the academic standards over the next year. So that is something that will require a lot of mapping and scope and sequence work for our teachers. And it's good that we are aware and ready to do that. And this is a great time for us to adopt a new curriculum that's preparing our kids.
I think the burning question is Pluto a planet in this curriculum or not?
I'm not sure space is one of
Oh,
the standards for 7th and 8th grade.
okay.
You're gonna have to maybe go to 6th grade.
Okay. All right, so I would Do you want to present them all and just approve them all, or you want us to go one at a time?
It's up to you. What would you
Let's just
prefer?
do one at a time. Make
Okay.
That way we don't miss anything on,
Okay.
on my end. So I would entertain a motion to approve number 1 as presented. Mr. King makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bailey seconds the motion. Any more discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Okay, you can move on.
The next item is the second reading and approval of the 23-24 student handbooks for elementary, middle, and high school. We didn't have any changes to our elementary handbooks, but there were some minor changes to the middle school and high school handbooks. I believe those were presented for you at the last board meeting, so this is a requirement that we have a second reading, and the approval takes place at the second reading. And if you have any questions, I believe Mr. Calhoun can field those questions.
No, I spoke to Mr. Key and Mrs. Redmond after the last reading, and they've incorporated the changes, so I appreciate the chance to look at that. And I mentioned earlier to the board, I think, that
Go ahead, Scott.
there was a section on vaping that was added to this one. I think all of them had a section on vaping, so that's the latest thing coming up, right? So, and then the high school had a lot of stuff about early graduation and the red, white, and blue advisory program, and I think they did a really good job of writing those. So I think they did a really good job with it.
Okay, well, I would entertain a motion to approve number 2, the second reading of the student handbooks. Mrs. Miller makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Lombrick seconds. Any more discussion or questions on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Go ahead.
Item 3 is we're asking for your approval of a memorandum of understanding for our high school social worker, Sydney Barnhart, to receive clinical social work supervision from an outside provider. This is a retired school social worker who resides north of Martinsville, and so most of those, or half of those meetings, will take place on Zoom or Google Meet, and then the Indiana State clinical supervision requirements state that half of them need to be face-to-face. So we've presented a proposal to pay the social worker for her time and her supervision of Sydney. Sydney is a first-year social worker at Bedford North Lawrence High School this year, and we're trying to give her all the support she needs to make that a successful partnership. So this was a very generous proposal by the social worker, the retired social worker, because I believe she really wants us to succeed in this endeavor. So we would ask that you would approve that memorandum of understanding between those two individuals. It is contingent on her employment with NLCS, so if at any time she's not employed by NLCS, that will cease.
That was my only question. Does anybody else have?
Is there any, so $6,000 investment, does she have a certain time commitment with NLCS after that, or a payback if she leaves or anything like that?
She does not, but it's paid out on a basis, we're not paying ahead for any services, so we're paying for the services as they occur.
But sometimes in this, you see like a continuation agreement of 1 year post the certification or whatever it would be.
Yeah,
So
that's not included since this is a memorandum of understanding between the two individuals. It's not necessarily a contract between Bedford North Lawrence Community Schools and the social worker. But Mr. Pittman reviewed this and felt that it was appropriate and fair. We are asking her to do this clinical work in our school setting, but we've not given her the support that she needs to make that happen in having a supervisor who does clinical work, because we don't employ an LCSW and an LCS.
How many licensed social workers do we have full-time?
I would have to look.
Okay.
I believe all 5 of our elementary social workers or social emotional counselors are licensed. Some of them hold multiple social work licenses, but they are all licensed either as social workers or school counselors.
Okay. And the invoice calls for being paid in 30 days. Are we good with that? Yes. Okay. And termination and controlling law, you're okay with all that? So this copy, and there's a place on the back for somebody in LCS to sign it. we'll put dates in, right, before we sign it? Okay, so. I mean, it's blank, so I don't know who signs it, but we just need to have that done.
But is there some other, Greg, this doesn't seem the normal mechanism for an obligation of an expense for the corporation. Is there some resolution or something we have to do that's other than this?
It looks okay.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for the explanation.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion for approval of Dan Pohl's clinical social work supervision MOU for our high school social worker.
Motion.
Mr. Key makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Mr. Parsley seconds. Any more discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving on to Centerstone.
Centerstone is our only provider in the county for mental health services for youth. And so we have had a long-standing relationship with them. This is a formal memorandum of understanding for them to come into our buildings, our school buildings, and do sessions with their patients who are our students. This has actually been happening for a long time, but they have a new director. She's also the director for Monroe County. So Katie Booth, she is phenomenal, and we've had lots of collaboration and lots of meetings since she has taken over the Lawrence County Centerstone. And so it's a hopeful thing, and it's a great thing for our kids. So this is just a formal MOU that between Centerstone and North Lawrence Community Schools that we would allow their therapists to come in and work with their patients. Those kiddos can't receive all their services in the evening because those therapists can't work. They'd be working until 9 or 10 o'clock every night, not fitting all the kids in. So they currently also have a waiting list. So this would hopefully reduce get more kids into services because they would have more time. They also hope to have a set therapist that visits each building, so the school staff in the office will get to know that person, and it won't be a revolving door of Centerstone therapists, hopefully. So
Is this for all grades?
it is,
Okay.
yes.
So, and this, Centerstone's responsibility, it talks about liability and malpractice insurance. They provided to us when we requested. I assume since we worked with them before, we have that on file.
And
So we
this is at no cost to the district at all. I didn't say that, but that's important to know. They bill insurance, they bill Medicaid, so it's at no cost to the districts. It's just allowing them to come in.
Okay. But they maintain liability and malpractice insurance. We've seen that, right? Okay.
We've had memorandums of understanding in the past,
Okay.
with them.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just glad that we are able to provide that during the school day. I think that's, just to acknowledge that that's super important for the kids. So I would entertain a motion for approval of the Centerstone MOU as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Lombrick makes a motion. Do I have a second? Mrs. Miller makes a second. Any more discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries.
Okay. The next one is, Jenna's here, so I didn't know if she wanted to present this, but the next one is approval of B&L's Early College School Leadership Team to attend the Early College Summit at Ben Davis High School on June 5th, so that's after school is out, June 5th, 2023, and the Rural Early College Network Retreat on June 6th in Indianapolis. It would be 2 B&L staff members. I believe you have an attachment there that's an
we
email.
do.
Okay.
So give us just a second to look at that.
Okay. 10 B&L staff members. 2 are presenting. I'm sorry about that. So
Okay.
10 staff members total. And expenses are reimbursed through the grant.
Participation in the second day is a requirement of the grant.
So what's
The Reckon grant. Jenna added that the Reckon grant, so that we are a recipient of the Reckon grant, and so this is also a requirement of our participation with the grant.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve number 5 under curriculum as presented. Mr. King makes a motion. Do we have a second? Mrs. Miller makes a second. Any more discussion on the motion? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Tricia.
Thank you for
very
your time.
much. Next, we have persons to address the board. You just bring it to me if you don't mind, and I'll.
We just want to know your name.
Yeah.
Just want to read one paper.
I just hope I'm taller than the podium, because
That thing moves down.
it was a little questionable.
You get your bucket.
Good. I am Kirsten Gore, and I live at 447 Blue Spring Caverns Road, Bedford. I am a kindergarten teacher at Parkview, and I've been with NLCS for 30 years. In that time, I have had many occasions to participate in various safety drills, and I can say during that time, I have witnessed the process of a continual practice and review of these drills to ensure that we're implementing them the best way possible. It's obvious that we are very dedicated to the safety of our students and our staff. My request tonight is that you look closer at the area of safety and consider implementing SROs at every building. At one time, I feel like we initiated that role in our district to aid in issues that came up among students. But as our culture has changed, the role of that position, I think, has changed. And it's my opinion that the role of the SRO is no longer just to help with student relations, but to provide another line of protection for our students and our staff. I feel like we need to make sure that this line of defense is available at every building, every day. I ask that you spend some time seriously considering what can be done to further ensure the safety of all the students and staff in your care. And I ask that you find a way to place SROs not just in some schools on some days, but in every school and in every building every day. If my calculations are correct, I think that totals about 9 officers. And I just feel like that's a small price to pay for a potentially life-changing situation. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other persons to come right up? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Missy Collingsworth on Erie Church Road and Proud Shawswick parent. I didn't plan on talking tonight, but I just had a couple of questions. When I printed out the agenda earlier in the week, I know that there was a sheet for, or a proposal for new bleachers to be replaced, and I just wanted to know if, why those were taken off, or verify if those were approved elsewhere in the budget, or where those went.
I can answer that. We're going to move discussion of that to a public work session.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And I know you guys have probably been bombarded. I try to be good, but emails about playground. We have a very passionate amount of parents who are working together to improve Shawswick's playground. We are setting up a private, or we have a private account just for that, our playground fund. We have great parents who are out trying to recruit things for our event on May 6th. That's what we're going to call our big fundraising event. We've been doing minimal things throughout. When I say minimal, little things to add up to big things. Did a spirit night at a local restaurant that got us $500. And again, little things will become big things, so that's what we're trying to do. When you look into the bleachers, a couple of questions that you'll have to ask that I had when I first saw that was, how many students use those per day? Are they age appropriate? How old are they? The reason that you want to replace them? Have students been injured on them? The condition or missing parts? And have they been painted or updated? So that may carry over into the work session. We've had Play Pros is who I had come out. We've reached out to multiple people to come and give us estimates on the playground. Play Pros came out, which we found out is who did the amazing playgrounds over at Playful Pathway, so it was a beautiful connection that they said NLCS already has. A main question that I'm going to have is budget-wise, and we need to know how much we need to do as parents, because as hard as we've worked, and my parents and the playground committee are amazing, it's still small strides for a big project. But so we need to know after our May 6th event how much more work we need to put in. Do we need to start planning now on future events? And what is going to be the responsibility of the PTO and parents to put towards the playground, and what is going to be the responsibility of NLCS? I did do a Freedom of Information Act, and I think that's probably known, so I know there probably is some hopeful financial help that we can have. I know within the past week, a swing broke with a student on it. I know in the past couple of months, a student has fallen and broken their arm on the transition of lack of mulch to blacktop, which is in some places is more than 12 inches, and it should be smooth and seamless. And I know we have a student coming next year in a wheelchair. 0 items on our playground are wheelchair accessible, and that's not okay with us. We want every child to be included in play, every child to have access to play, and we want to make that change. So I implore you guys to look into that, and we want it to be done within the next school year. And we know with delays still from COVID, to order now, we are still looking at an October date. And then when can we get installation done? So it's just something that I feel like is time sensitive, because no student deserves to be excluded from play. That's all.
Ms. Collinsworth, can you for the audience share that quote
I can.
ballpark figure
I
from
can,
Playful Pros?
I can share it with all of you if you'd like to see it.
I think we've seen it.
I've seen it.
I just want.
Can you say it just for
I will, absolutely. And this does not include turf, which we have looked into turf, mulch, and another thing that you guys may not be aware of with mulch on the playgrounds is sometimes when they refill the mulch and they use heavy equipment to come in, sometimes that heavy equipment backs into things, and our dome, which is the student's favorite playground, has dented pieces and missing pieces where when mulch is replaced, damages. So we're just further exacerbating the tear down and breakdown of our playground. So this quote that I'm going to give you is only for playground equipment, and it is $351,600. We, I think, as a PTO, we are sitting at, and we're so blessed and so proud of it, we're sitting at $38,500, which is not a small drop considering we're a Title I school. Our parents have been amazing. So this quote does not include turf, mulch, or we had looked into pour in place. We have now realized that turf has a 15-year warranty, where pour in place only has a 5-year warranty. Turf holds up better, turf is cooler, and at this point our playground has 0 shade as well.
Okay, that was higher than what I remember reading from your last.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. We haven't updated because the one that came when they sent it back actually wasn't. The original quote we had when we first got it back, when we viewed the pictures, was not inclusive except for, I think, 3, some swings, what they call a merry-go-round or a we-go-round. But the large piece of equipment, the main equipment, was not handicap accessible. So that is not okay with us. So we sent it back to the drawing board and said, please include, so that all students have access to all the areas.
Would the wheelchair be able to navigate the playground?
An ironic thing is we have a lot of blacktop on our playground, which we have thought up until now with mulch is not good. Because as it wears out, if you could keep it on, they can. So we will keep the blacktop in place to allow access to each different parts. And when we do, because even if it's a phase 1 or a phase 2, to get, I'm going to say turf because that's our goal. When we get to turf, they said blacktop is actually the best thing to have because the blacktop will go seamlessly onto one level. So it'll actually end up becoming a perk. And at this time, I know that we don't meet regulations when we measure. We don't have the accurate fall zone that we need for safety. And again, we go to those transitions from mulch to the blacktop. Some are a couple of inches, some are as much as 12 inches.
So do you have a ballpark figure with the turf or with the finishing?
We do have a ballpark on what the Play Pros people said they're looking at $150,000.
On top of the 350.
On top of the 350,000. So my 38,500 is a drop in the bucket.
But still very impressive.
And we're not done.
Yeah, very, very impressive PTO there. This may be a question, I don't know if Steve or Jim can answer about our playground, is this our worst playground that we have? Do we know? Or do all our playgrounds need updates? Okay.
One thing that I've heard from people in the community, people on the board, whenever I do say, hey, we need a playground, and that is the answer, that everything needs a playground, and if they give to Shawswick, other places will need, but that hasn't been the case for us since 1989. Other places have gotten updates and upgrades, and we're still sitting. It's been updated once, and PTO paid for that when they paid to repaint, strip down and repaint, and make smooth surfaces so students weren't getting hurt, and just so it looks more fun. And then now we are with our large piece, which actually isn't, our large piece is not a 5 to 12-year-old playscape. It is for like a 2 to 5 age range, so it's actually not even appropriate. And as pieces break off of that, it cannot be replaced because it's from 1989. So those pieces just get left off, and it whittles away and whittles away.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for
Thank you.
the information
Just wanted to give
and
you an
for your
update.
advocacy. And we will be talking about different projects in a public work session.
We're
and I'm
working
sure
hard.
this
We
will
need to
be-
know how much harder we need
Yeah.
to work.
Give us the time on May 6th.
May
Yeah.
6th
Yeah.
at Shawswick School. Come out and see our playground. It is from 11 to 5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other persons to address the board? Okay. So now to closing business, our upcoming meetings, and I don't have that in front of me. Jim, when is our next meeting? May 18th is our next scheduled meeting, but there may be some added. Before we adjourn, I did want to mention as a follow-up to the work session that we had back, I think it was in March, when we asked Mr. Underwood and Mr. Calhoun to put together a survey regarding getting community input and feedback about the two middle schools, in particular, the middle school at the Olytic K campus, and just wanted to acknowledge that they've worked really hard on that, and we have a survey that we're going to get final, it's not voted on, but approval from the board tonight to make sure everybody's okay with it, and it will go live tomorrow. So I just wanted to follow up that will be going out to NLCS families and staff, so be on the lookout for that. It will come through email, through, is it PowerSchool or Blackboard, but it's also, and social media. It's a very brief survey, so if you or anyone that you know is impacted by these decisions, please do take the time. It really will take you like 5 minutes tops. And we did make it so that if you're a parent and a staff member, because we have a lot of those, you just take two separate ones so that we get your perspective as a parent, but also as a staff member. So I just wanted to follow up and let everybody know that will be coming out tomorrow. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn. Mr. Lombrick makes the motion. Mrs. Miller seconds the motion. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you everyone for coming.